Hey, the Dockers gamble their way to an incredible come-from-behind win, and the Crows sink to new lows at 0-6. All that and more to come on the round so far. But Cane Corn's different studios today. The border restrictions haven't finished us off on the show tonight, and we're going to kickstart with a big story. Essendon into the top four with a 4-1 record with a game in hand. North Melbourne, their fourth consecutive loss on the trot, and it was all down to their dysfunctional forward line.
Yeah, it was. There wasn't too much between the two sides from a stats perspective, Mitch. I just thought Essendon were a lot more efficient, and we're seeing the inside 50s here from North Melbourne. They had 47 of them for 3 inside 50 marks. Now, this was the issue for them. Ben Brown, we know, has been down on form, but with this supply and their lack of efficiency going forward, you can't blame too much on the forwards today. But from a contested ball perspective, from clearances, they matched Essendon. I just thought the Bombers were a little bit cleaner, a little bit more efficient going in, and around their ground, I thought Essendon's pressure was better. But if we speak of North Melbourne, I think they're in a dangerous position, and they are suffering from being in and around the 8 for the last 5 years. They've either been in it or just outside. Now, with that becomes no man's land. You don't get the elite draft picks that you would if you've really bottomed out, and you just sort of remain stable, which is great if you're a North Melbourne fan because you know you're going to get a contest on game day. You don't have those disastrous losses. But now they find themselves in 16th position with a lack of talent coming through that's been exposed when no Zeeble has been there and no Cunnington's been there.
And they've stood down their forward coach, Brendan Whitecross. That could have something to do with this dysfunctional service from the midfield to the forward line. They went with Tom Campbell as the ruck forward today. He only had 2 hit-outs, so he played mostly forward, pretty quiet on the night. That's a pretty interesting call to see how North Melbourne going forward and see how they handle their key forwards, obviously missing Nick Larkey in that area. Now, Essendon, massive win for them, as we said, into the top 4, but they could well be without their star, Dylan Shield. After this bump on Curtis Taylor, Taylor did return to play minutes in the last quarter, but he's got a bit to worry about here, Dylan Shield. I think careless, medium impact, he's going to miss a week.
Yeah, I think a week is about right, and probably fortunate, I think, for Dylan Shield, because as you mentioned, Taylor came back on the ground after going off and getting assessed. They did check him out for concussion, but the fact that he came back on will save Dylan Shield. But he's lucky because we know if he was concussed and Taylor was out for the remainder of the game, the contact would have been more severe, therefore a harsher penalty. So I'd expect Dylan Shield to have a week off next week.
Yeah, so if it's low impact, he'll cop a fine. Medium impact, as we expect, he'll cop the 1 week. Essendon were great on the night. David Zaharakis, 3 goals. Devon Smith, 25 touches. Connor McKenna playing his first game back of the season. This was interesting on the quarter-time siren. Essendon kicked 4 of their 9 goals in the last 2 minutes of each quarter. So they won in red time on the night, and it caused a bit of a brawl at quarter-time.
Yeah, well, they were pretty good. They had some players return to form. You mentioned David Zaharakis, and I want to highlight this from Luke McDonald, which is an interesting sledge towards Connor McKenna. We know he had coronavirus, and Luke is just covering up his face, whether it's a face shield insult or clearly a coronavirus-related insult. Now, I don't reckon it's a good look. It's not dissimilar to when Sam Mitchell made the injection motion towards Essendon players some years ago. So, look, I don't expect a sanction, but I'd be a little bit embarrassed if I was Luke McDonald watching that vision back.
The AFL need a talking to give to Luke McDonald?
I think that just to please explain. Like, as I said, I don't think it's worthy of a sanction, but it's more the embarrassment of that being shown on shows like ours and across the weekend through no fault of Connor McKenna's, really, that he's contracted one of the most contagious viruses the world's ever seen. So just a little bit uneasy watching that.
All right, to Giant Stadium we go next. A gritty win for Melbourne. They had to do it after a week of backlash. They dropped Adam Tomlinson at the selection table. 7 minutes ago, scores a level. That ends in the hands of Sam Wiedemann, who played his first game of the season.
They just had to win, didn't they? And there's still a lot of holes in Melbourne's game. But what I think their ball use was better at times. This couple I thought was going to hurt them. Look at the scores. Petraka streaming out of the centre square, turns it over. He kicked it at 36% again, so his ball use was off. And then this is the next play. Oliver, whose ball use has been poor this year, turns it over, and you think Gold Coast are going to go down and score. But they did get one right late in the game, and it was these 2 players. Oliver with a beautiful touch pass to Petraka, who had a lot of the ball again, kicked a couple of goals, but ball use was poor. But in the big moment, he stood up and kicked that one. And this one from Cozzy Pickett actually were more efficient, Melbourne, which has been their downfall. Sets up Benell. They took 12 inside 50 marks, which would be their most for the season. And this was a touching moment. Harley Bennell kicking his first goal in Demons colours, and Mitchie played 80% game time, up from 60 in his last AFL game. So clearly they have a little bit more confidence in Harley Bennell's body moving forward, which is a good sign.
And clearly worked on his body as he needed to do when he went back for that 3 or so weeks. Of course, no Tom McDonald. He went out at quarter time with an eye injury, so big performance there from Sam Wiedemann to stand up when it mattered most. Now, pretty rare here on the round so far. We go with a Saturday star from the losing side, but we couldn't look past this man on debut, the former number 3 pick, Isaac Rankin. Find me 2 better goals to start your career than this.
No, I can't find you 3, because I reckon the third one is just as clever and just as good. We'll show that. But this is what Gold Coast fans, there's not many of them, but they've been waiting for. And Rao goes out, well, this guy steps straight back in. And this goal here, he's just, when he's around the footy, he makes something happen. Now, he's been ready to play against men in the AFL for a couple of years now. He debuted at Sanford level against senior bodies when he was 16 years of age. So he's been ready to go. That goal there is clever. That is class against a good opponent in Jeddah in his first game. Look at the sidestep there. Look at the shimmy. There's shades of Wanganeen. There's a bit of goods in there. There's a bit of Burgoyne, I reckon. Like, I know it's a big wrap, but I just hope his body stays sound, because he's going to bring a lot of joy to a lot of supporters for the next 10 to 15 years.
Gee, no pressure on Isaac Rankin. Now we go to the Suns' home ground earlier in the day to Metricon Stadium. This is one of the more extraordinary games you'll find. St Kilda led by 37 points. Fremantle kicked 10 of the next 11 goals. Then the Saints come barnstorming home. Michael Walters gives away this 50-metre penalty for the infringement zone. Zach Jones goes to the goal square to level things up with 2.5 minutes on the clock.
Ties it up. As you said, it's extraordinary, and Jones goes back and slots it. I just thought it was St Kilda by how much at quarter time. They stopped, whether it was a 2.5 bus ride down from Noosa. But these are the scenes with 2 minutes to go. Walters at 50, his coach. And then the Saints had the option to go forward. And we're going to have a look at this, and clearly we're going to see a couple of Fremantle players gamble. They're going to turn the footy over. And as it goes down, and once I said, we're going to look at this from behind the goal, so we'll show you exactly how it's happened. But Lockie Schultz is the man that ends up with the footy in his hands. It could have been 3 Fremantle Dockers all alone inside 50, but with 2 minutes to go, he marks it. He kicks it, you can see, with 1:24 to go on the clock. It's a big moment for a young kid. He ices the game, and Fremantle pull off one of the most remarkable victories. I think their biggest comeback ever in the history of the club, from 36 points down at quarter time.
And his coach did it from a similar spot 15 years ago against the same side, Justin Longmuir. So he would have enjoyed seeing that. As you said, let's go to the behind the goals vision now. This is when scores are level. So Jones has just kicked the goal for St Kilda. Saints going forward. 2 Fremantle players here, one of them being Lockie Schultz, are gambling, and it pays off at great cost.
Yeah, see, some would say that's cheating. I would say that's incredibly smart. They know there's 2 minutes to go in this game. They know with the situation they're at on the field, they can't influence the direct contest inside St Kilda's forward 50. So they think, well, I'm just going to sag back here and hope. Yeah, it's a hope and it's a gamble, as you said, that we're going to win the footy. But it's a smart move to make. It's a risk that they take, one that pays off. You have to ask where St Kilda's defenders were, because with a couple of minutes left, you can't just throw all your defensive action out the window. So it was poor defending from St Kilda, who also took a gamble to run forward off their direct opponents. But smart play from a young player, and it got Fremantle the win, and I was right for them.
Now, Nat Fyfe playing off only 1 week out with the hamstring injury. He was important as a midfielder early, but after sort of midway through the second quarter, he went and anchored himself to the goal square. We're seeing some of his quarter 1 and Q2 highlights. But he went forward after this, and the Dockers backed in their younger mids and serviced Fyfe in attack.
Well, this is a concern for me. Like, he didn't attend a centre bounce in the last quarter. Now, Nat Fyfe had 15 disposals and a couple of goals up until half-time. He had 3 possessions in the second half, including only 1 kick, and it was 1 possession in the last quarter. So, as you said, 1 week off a hammy injury, usually they're 3 minimum. I just hope they haven't gambled with their superstar and captain, and he has done further damage to that hamstring. Now, I know his coach, Justin Longmuir, was asked about this post-game, and he said, no, it was just a match-up thing, and we wanted to back in the younger players, or words to that effect. But I'd have serious suspicions as to why one of the best centre bounce clearance players in the competition isn't in the middle of the ground when the game is on the line and it's even and you're looking for your second win of the year. So that's one to watch and see if he plays next week for the Fremantle Dockers.
And there's a big one next week in the Derby against the Eagles. Now, Ben Long, he won't be playing next week. This one left Sean Darcy concussed, ruled out of the game. The way I'm looking at this, Kane, it's careless because it's a bump near the footy. I think it's either high impact, which will be 2 weeks, or if it's somehow upgraded because of the outcome, it could be severe impact and 3 weeks. Not a good look.
Yeah, so the chart doesn't actually quite work in this situation. High impact in 2 weeks is not enough for me. Yet I don't think the contact was severe. So for me, looking at that is a 3 week, perhaps a 4 week suspension. 4 probably in a normal 22 round season. So 3 is probably enough. But we need to eradicate that. When you choose to bump, you run past the ball, you get your opponent high, and he takes no further part in the game. It's at least 3 weeks. So I thought that was poor from Long, and I thought he had options to go and win the footy rather than bump, and he's going to pay a significant penalty, and so he should.
So I've just said off the careless impact there, careless conduct. Is there any way you think, I still think it's going to be careless, but is there any way you think that could be upgraded to intentional because he's run past the footy?
It's probably careless just because the ball is in the vicinity. So once again, not often, or not always, I should say, does the chart actually work and spit out the right number. Now, in this occasion, 2 weeks is probably where it sits inside the chart. But looking at that, 2 weeks isn't enough. So we'll wait and see whether the MRO have any room to move and upgrade it to 3.
Okay, we'll watch closely tomorrow when Michael Christian hands down his findings. Now, to the Gabba we go next. West Coast. They finished Hub Life with back-to-back wins, now 3-3 on the season. They go back to WA again for the Derby, but the big talking point going into this one was Nick Nat against Rolly O'Brien. Rolly O'Brien's leaked tweets called him unfit and lazy. Nick Nat had the last laugh with that stoppage goal.
He did, and I thought he was really good in the first half, Nick Nat. He really had this intensity about him and this focus. He was clearly fired up behind it. But after half-time, I actually thought that man, Rolly O'Brien, really lifted. Now, clearly it was the Eagles, as you can see here. Nat knew he was dominant from the centre bounce and around the grounds in the hit-outs. But around the ground, in terms of impact, possessions, marking the footy, I thought Rolly O'Brien definitely held his own. But this is what Nick Nat can do. It's the tap work, it's the follow-up. Now, only 7 disposals, so I'd like to see him getting more of the footy. But the scenes after the game were as good as we've seen. And Mitch, the way that Nick Nat knew he handled it, he was all class and even handed Rolly O'Brien a new phone. I've never seen anything like it, but it was absolute class. And well done to those 2 players for a genuine one-on-one battle that we do not see enough in modern footy.
Adam Simpson said Nick Nat actually wasn't too pleased. I know Nick Nat sort of did it all with a laugh, but I think that might have got to Nick Nat a little bit during the week, and he felt he had a point to prove. Now, we can't let this paper over the cracks of another horror performance for the Crows. They're 0-6 now on the season. We wanted to pull apart this one. This is Luke Brown and Jamie Cripps during the third quarter.
Yeah, it's a terrible effort from Brown. Now, if Matthew Nicks has focused 90% of his pre-season on defensive action, look at the gap that Cripps has got on Brown in the space of, 40 metres, and Brown just sags off, and that's another easy goal. So they are far, far too easy to play against the Adelaide Football Club. They are now 0-6. They average 35.6 points in their last 5 games, which is absolutely diabolical. And if you look at their percentage, it's actually it's not that much better than when GWS and Gold Coast first came into the competition. So it doesn't get much worse. I'm not seeing a lot of great signs from their young players. I do like Will Hamill. Apart from that, there's not a lot of shining lights coming through from the Crows. One positive today was that their senior group of players, a few of them actually played a lot better than they have. So I thought Smith was better and the Crouch boys were better, but still a long way to go. And there's 11 games left. It's hard to see where Adelaide Crows go to win from this year.
Do they win one?
I think they will. I think we often make these calls early. Still a lot of footy to be played. They've got a lot of home games left. So at some point, I think they will get one. It's going to be pretty embarrassing if they don't, though.
All right, speaking of low scores, the Hawthorn delivered one of those back on Friday night, and Collingwood were exciting. Jaden Stevenson playing a different role. Jamie Elliott going into the midfield in the absence of De Goey and Sidebottom. These 2 players caught your eye.
Loved it. Yeah, 5 clearances for Jamie Elliott, and that was after he was managed at the 18-minute mark of the third quarter and didn't play again. So it's good coaching from Nathan Buckley. And in a season like this is the sort of innovation you are going to have to come up with to rejuvenate your side. Now, Stevenson, I think, is going to be a very good midfielder, but I can also see him playing in that Lachie Whitfield role across half-back and driving the ball inside 50 like he has here and getting him up and around it. Inside 50 is a hard position to play, and you call it the footballer's graveyard. It can be tough, and you go missing and you lose your confidence a little bit. I thought the way that he was up and around the footy was terrific and got him involved in the game and used the vast array of weapons that he has not just as a forward.
This was the lowest score for Hawthorn under Alistair Clarkson, their lowest score since 1975, albeit in the shortened quarters. Is this now a big concern for Hawthorn? Because we thought when they knocked off Richmond, it was all going to be rosy for the rest of the season.
Massive concerns over Hawthorn. We've spoken about their older players. There's probably 6 or 7 that look absolutely done, and Alistair Clarkson has been made to look foolish since he made those comments about the state of the AFL game 2 weeks ago when they beat North Melbourne and called it in a dreadful space. Well, AFL's not in a dreadful space. Your game plan is in a dreadful space. They had 318 disposals. They had 91 uncontested marks, and that equaled 32 inside 50. So they are playing this chip, short, possessions off, slow, wide football, racking up a lot of touches but doing absolutely nothing with it. So I'd hate to be a forward in Alistair Clarkson's game style, and they can't score. They were 11th for scoring coming into this round, and that's considering that Melbourne and Essendon have played one less game than everyone else, so probably 13th. And after Friday night, they'll drop even further. So he's got massive issues with his game plan, and a few of his experienced players are out of form, like Tom Scully and the captain, Ben Stratton.
Just on Stratton, he's the captain. Geez, not many captains get dropped. Is he in strife?
Well, he won't get dropped, but it was a strange choice when he was given the captaincy. And apart from the pinching issue when they played Essendon a year ago, this time last year, when is the most memorable moment that Ben Stratton has had? I mean, when is there a time when the game is on the line that he does something courageous or lifts his team? I see him as as a background player. He doesn't seem to be that inspirational captain, even in the mould of a Jaron Geary, who clearly they're less talented players with all due respect, but Geary still inspires his team. I don't see any of that for Ben Stratton. So Hawks will probably have to make a change there, and whether it's O'Meara, whether it's Mitchell, whether it's Sicily, maybe he's the front runner. But clearly I think they need a change of leadership at the Hawks because Ben Stratton has struggled since being named captain.
And Liam Shields is still young enough, so he's one potential they could throw in that basket as well. Now back to Thursday night, Geelong kicked 7 goals unanswered in the third quarter, the best single quarter of the season. They showcased their premiership credentials, and one man who may have gone under the radar a little bit is Sam Menegola. Gee, Kane, there's not too many players that have bounced back and had the career years they have like this man at his age.
No, I think he's a sneaky All-Australian shot. As good as Dangerfield was, Menegola was the number 1 ranked player on the ground according to Champion Data. And I'm not saying he was best on ground, but he's just such a well-rounded footballer. You see there how clean he is at ground level. He never fumbles the ball. Like, he's a one-grab player. He can hit the scoreboard. He can play in a variety of roles. But I like him as a midfielder. He's got penetration in his leg, as you're seeing here. So whilst it was Dangerfield and Ablett, and these guys get spoken about a lot, Hawkins does as well, and Selwood. This man definitely gone under the radar, and I reckon right now, if you're picking an All-Australian team, it's certainly been the squad of 40.
All right, to the rest of the round we go. Sneaky good game to kick things off on Sunday, Port Adelaide and GWS.
One of the matches of the round, and a huge test for Port Adelaide, who made a statement and dropped Tom Rockcliffe at selection. Richmond have got Carney's left, right and centre at selection, so they probably hold on against Sydney, but who knows? And then Carlton just need a win, but it's not going to be easy against the firing Western Bulldogs, who are in really good form.
And Lachie Hunter back for his first game after that 4-week suspension for crashing his car into 4 parked cars. Now, Kane, to one more thing. We love this from Devon Smith. This is post-game against North Melbourne.
It was a pretty physical game. You and Marley Williams had a few run-ins, but that's the way you love to play your footy.
Yeah, that's it. It's a bit of a rivalry build up from them, but for us it's another game, and we cracked in, and yeah, proud of our boys.
Now, Reece Shaw tried to get this rivalry fired up. Don't mind that from Dev.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, the winner always gets the last laugh, and it was a sneaky dig without being too overt. So, no, I like a bit of that, and I reckon it adds to the rivalry in future, which is what makes our game great.
Speaking of rivalries, Victoria, SA, you happy in SA at the moment?
Yeah, feeling reasonably comfortably in SA at the moment, but certainly thoughts are with everyone in Victoria who are doing it tough. And at least we've got the footy this time in lockdown part 2. So gives us something to talk about and enjoy.
All right, Kane, hopefully see you in the same studio, same time, same place very soon. We'll see you soon on The Round So Far.